atWork Australia would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and pay our respect to elders past and present. This podcast is being recorded in the southwest and Western Australia, which is land of the Noongar people. We'd also like to pay our respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from wherever you may be listening from. Hello and welcome everyone to the very first episode of Shaun's Candid Conversations. My name is Shaun Pianta. I'm atWork Australia's brand ambassador, and it's an absolute pleasure to be your host for this podcast. A little bit about myself. I come to atWork Australia in 2018 at a point in my life where I was really struggling to be able to find employment. atWork Australia heard my story and offered me an opportunity to be the brand ambassador. A little bit more about my past. I went on a holiday to Bali when I was 19 with a group of friends. Woke up one morning not quite feeling myself. By lunchtime, I was 100% blind and I was not in a very good way at all. My friends got me to the hospital. I had to be emergency evacuated back to Perth, and I was very fortunate enough to be able to regain about 10% of my eyesight. However, that did take my life in a little bit of a different direction. I ended up getting involved with para-alpine skiing. I got to travel all over the world training and competing, with the highlight of my sporting career being competing at the 2018 Winter Paralympics. And it was after the Paralympics is when I was trying to determine what the next phase of my life looked like. And to be honest, I was really struggling to figure that out on my own. And I reached out to atWork Australia for support, and they offered me an opportunity to be their brand ambassador, which sees me now being able to promote the benefits of employing a diverse and inclusive workplace. That's enough about me, more about the exciting new podcast that we've been working on. So this podcast aims to share the incredible stories of atWork Australia clients, how they've been able to overcome their own barriers and challenges to find life-changing employment. We'll also be discussing other relevant issues within the community that are relevant to disability and employment. And we'll also be hearing from senior leaders from within our business. Our very first episode, I spoke to one of atWork Australia clients, Michael Theo. You might recognise him from the Netflix special Love on the Spectrum. I had a great conversation with Michael, learnt about how atWork Australia were able to support him into the workplace and some of the exciting projects that he's been working on. I really enjoyed my chat, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it too. So please enjoy the first episode, and we'll be releasing more episodes shortly. Thanks so much for coming on today.
That's all right, my pleasure.
I know I've recently seen in the news and on your Instagram that you've recently been announced as an ambassador for International Day of People with Disability. Can you tell us a bit about that opportunity?
Yeah, my acting agent actually forwarded that opportunity to me. I decided to accept it. And also another reason why I decided to accept being an ambassador for International Day of People with Disability is because a lot of people see me as an inspiration to people in the autistic community, which I did not expect. Another reason why I decided, because it was another opportunity for me to share with people once again my story of living with autism. Well, I have Asperger's actually. I know people don't use that word anymore, and now people use autism, but that doesn't change the diagnosis because I was diagnosed with Asperger's.
And can you tell us a bit more about your journey of growing up with Asperger's and what it was like going through school and some of the barriers you faced coming into the teens?
Well, in primary school, I kept to myself by choice. That was just what I wanted at the time. But as I got into my preteen years, I began to embrace socializing more. But I also sometimes didn't know how to be sociable with people. And in high school, I was embracing it as each year passed, but I was often ignored by a lot of the students as well.
That's unfortunate. And how do you go engaging with your community now?
My mother describes me as a social butterfly.
It's a good way to be.
She basically went so far as to say that my hunger for socializing is insatiable.
You've become quite well known now from your time on Love on the Spectrum. You're now doing podcasts and you're pursuing an acting career. So is this a part of your future, more opportunities like this and pursuing more acting opportunities?
Yeah, of course.
And how are you liking the attention?
I actually enjoy the attention. And whenever I encounter people recognizing me in public, it doesn't bother me at all, not even in the slightest.
Yeah, okay.
And some of them even request a selfie.
Well, as you say that, when I told my wife that I was going to be chatting with you and she had seen you on Love on the Spectrum, and she was very excited and actually wanted to come along and meet you as well. So maybe once we finish recording, she can come and say hello.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Ah, fantastic. Before you've started on this whole acting journey, you were actually a client of atWork Australia. Can you tell us about your journey with atWork Australia?
They were actually pretty helpful in helping me find work over the years.
So before I came to atWork Australia to get support to find employment, I often doubted myself. Wasn't really sure what employer would want to give me an opportunity with my disability. Did you ever have any concerns like that
Yeah, a few when I was in my teenage years.
when you were back in the early days looking for work? What was your biggest challenge trying to find employment?
Like I didn't know where to start or how to begin.
And that's when you come to atWork Australia, and they were able to guide you on that journey.
Yep, they were very supportive.
And you work closely with Trevor. How did Trevor support you throughout that time?
He would often check in with me to see how I'm doing.
Yeah, that's really important to make sure people are going well and feeling confident in their job search, and also once they start working as well. So,
Yeah, of course. And my podcast, which is called Mr. A Plus, is one of the most important pieces of work that I've ever done in my life.
yeah, can you tell us a bit more about your podcast,
Yeah.
Mr. A Plus?
I don't talk about anything specific. I talk about a variety of different subjects, and I also have different amazing guests on there. I've had scientists like Kirsten Banks, an astronomer, Dr. Vanessa Perrotta, who's a wildlife scientist,
Yeah,
big names from the US like Mark Evan Jackson, Stephanie Beatriz, Chelsea Peretti, and a lot of Australian actors like Justin Clark, Susie Porter, Shane Jacobson, Stephen Curry, Claudia Carvin, Emma Watkins. I've even had my best friend Brianna, both my parents, of course, and two directors named Kean O'Cleary and Darren Ashton.
you must have a lot of fun recording your podcasts.
Yeah, I always have a lot of fun doing it. In fact, I don't do the podcast in hopes of an award. I do it because I enjoy the work and because it gives people something to listen to on their way to work, on their way home from work, or if they need some kind of escape from reality after a very bad day.
Oh, that's a good reason to do things. You know, when you
Yeah,
do things purely for passion, that's when you get the best results.
of course. And because I enjoy making people entertained. As long as they're entertained, then I'm happy.
Would you say you're the entertainer in your household?
Yeah, kind of, but my material is basically old news to them. I need a new audience, a larger audience.
Someone to share your humor with?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, I actually come to atWork Australia in 2018 as a client as well. I'm legally blind. I acquired my disability when I was 19. That sort of took my life in a whole different direction. I ended up getting involved in para-alpine skiing. I got to compete at the 2018 Winter Paralympics, and it was after the Paralympics when I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to find a job with a disability, and atWork Australia were able to support me. If you can think back, what were some of the challenges or barriers that you were facing when you're trying to find employment?
Well, a lot of employers don't really know how to interact with people on the spectrum, and because they think that if something goes wrong on the first day, they don't want them back. But one day in work experience is not
Feel
enough.
comfortable. You need to be able to have that time to be able to settle in and figure the job out, don't you?
Yeah, of course. And they need guidance as well, and they need support.
So, what advice would you give to employers to be able to support more people with disabilities in the workplace?
Just give them a chance, and also ask them questions like if they are they enjoying the work, what can they do to make things better for that person,
Yeah,
and take the time to listen.
yeah, exactly.
People on the spectrum just learn things differently, a different way.
So you think for someone on the spectrum they just need that extra time and the tailored support to be able to suit their needs.
Yes, they do.
Can you tell me about any more of the other projects you're coming up? I know you've worked very closely with your job coach Trevor in the past, and he mentioned you might be going to the UK to do some work.
Yeah, I'm actually going to the UK in January.
Do you enjoy traveling around the world doing these types of things?
Yeah, I really love traveling.
I know now you're pursuing this acting career. Is there any actors or actresses that you'd like to be able to work with in the future?
There's heaps of them. People that worked on shows like The Office, Modern Family, Parks and Recreation, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Superstore, The Good Place. Those people that worked on those shows, I really want to work with them.
Yeah, the natural comedians like Steve Carell and people like that.
Yeah, and even ones like Jamila Jamil, Kristen Bell.
Do you have a favorite movie or series?
Well, I'm more of a television guy than into films.
Yep.
But my favorite shows would be Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, News Radio, The Office, Modern Family, Parks and Recreation, New
Yep.
Girl, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Superstore, The Good Place, Thomas the Tank Engine, Hanna-Barbera's shows, and SpongeBob SquarePants,
Yeah. Okay.
and Fawlty Towers.
There's a good mix in there. So,
Yeah, long
yeah,
list.
I have watched some of the footage from Love on the Spectrum, and I listened to your interview with Alan and Mia Friedman. That must have been pretty good.
Yep, they were very fun experiences.
Yeah, you seem to be a very confident speaker. Is that something you've worked on, or you just a natural?
Something I've kind of worked on, but I'm also kind of a natural as well. But
You got the gift of the gab.
yeah, I would say that I do, but also I haven't always been the confident person I am today.
Confidence grows as the more you speak and you take on
Yeah,
those
of
experience.
course.
Your confidence continues to grow, doesn't it?
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I had a very low opinion of myself.
Oh, but that's but as your confidence grows, you become you think more highly of yourself now.
Yep. But
Yeah,
also Love on the Spectrum helped with that.
yeah, would do. Is there going to be more series of that in the future?
You mean Love on the Spectrum?
Yeah,
I'm afraid not.
afraid not.
No.
And how did you come around to getting involved with Love on the Spectrum?
Northern Pictures was contacting various employment agencies, including atWork, and they recommended me because early in February 2019, I once complained to my case manager that I wanted to get out there and meet new people.
Yep.
So when Love on the Spectrum was in pre-production, I was recommended, and then I called them Northern Pictures back numerous times because I was so eager to be part of the show. But I didn't go on the show so I could become famous. I went on there because I just wanted a girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. Just got to keep on the hunt, and I'm sure one day you're going to find the right lady.
Yeah, of course.
To tie things back, if you could speak to Australian business owners, what would your message be to them when it comes to giving people with disabilities an opportunity?
Just do your best to support them and find out if they're reliable, if they're punctual, if they're honest, and if they enjoy the work.
That's some good qualities you want in an employee, someone
Yeah,
that's hardworking and punctual. So,
yeah, of course. Because whenever I was in a job, I always turned up on time. And if I was ever late, which was very rare, I always apologized for it and explained my lateness. And I always did my absolute best to follow instructions, get the work done, and listen to what the boss has to say, and learn to get along with everyone.
yeah, it's a great way to look at things. I think I've heard in one of your interviews that you've explained your diagnosis of Asperger's being like your superpower. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, about that being a superpower, it kind of allows me to be my true authentic self without trying to be somebody else or exaggerating what I say. Because and also I also have a tendency to have wandering eyes. But just because my eyes tend to wander, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not listening to people, because
Yeah,
people on the spectrum have difficulty maintaining eye contact.
yeah, I've experienced that in a different way myself, having a vision impairment. I've had people before
Yeah,
not thinking I'm looking at them or thinking I'm staring at them, but in fact I wasn't really
yeah, of
aware of
course.
that's the direction I was looking in.
But
So I
also,
guess it's having a greater understanding of people's barriers.
but also other qualities that come with being on the spectrum is they're they're extremely honest, they're very reliable, and they're also some of the most kind-hearted people in the world, and they have a strong moral compass.
And they're great qualities that you'd look for in an employee as well. So
Yep, of course. In fact, I was actually raised that way as well.
your mum and dad have done a brilliant job in the way they've raised you then.
Oh yeah, they did. They say they did their best. I think they did more than that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you can only do your best, but they've done a fantastic job. So
they certainly did.
yeah. Well, Michael, thank you very much for taking the time to come and have a chat with me today. I've really appreciated it, and all the best for the future endeavours and all
Thank
the
you.
projects you're going to be working on.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. I really hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Michael and hearing about some of the incredible projects that he's working on now and in the future. If you'd like to learn more about atWork Australia, or you live with a disability, injury, illness, or disadvantage and you need support to find employment, please get in touch with atWork Australia today. To keep up with our series, please be sure to click subscribe. I'll see you next time.